Welcome to Two Queens and a Joker, my narcissist ex and me. My name is Brenda. Sarah and I each had a relationship and children with the same narcissist. We both have found our way out and found our way to a meaningful friendship with each other, trauma bond and all. We hope to share our stories so you know you're not the only one who has endured the crazy-making experience of being with a narcissist. Two Queens and a Joker, my narcissist ex and me, is sponsored by the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Center, where we provide therapy, classes, and support groups for people healing from narcissistic abuse. Contact us at www.narctrauma.com. Welcome to Two Queens and a Joker, my narcissist ex and me. My name is Brenda. Sarah and I each had a relationship and children with the same narcissist. We both have found our way out and found our way to a meaningful friendship with each other, trauma bond and all. We hope to share our stories so you know you're not the only one who has endured the crazy-making experience of being with a narcissist. Two Queens and a Joker, my narcissist ex and me, is sponsored by the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Center, where we provide therapy, classes, and support groups for people healing from narcissistic abuse. Contact us at www.narctrauma.com.
Trigger warning, talk about physical violence. And there are some swear words.
Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Two Queens and a Joker, my narcissist ex and me. I'm Brenda.
And I'm Sarah. And today we're going to kick off a powerful series about the mind-warping effects of narcissistic abuse. Whew. The episode is called, Am I Making This Shit Up? If you've ever asked yourself that, then you are in the right place.
Absolutely. We're talking about the self-doubt survivors carry, how narcissistic abuse can make you question your reality, your memories, even your sanity. And we'll also explore how to begin trusting yourself again.
And of course, we'd also like to share a couple stories of our own. So we're going to get into it right now.
Yes. So, Sarah, did something come to mind about a time where you were really doubting yourself, really thinking, am I making this up? Is this really happening this way?
There's quite a few. My son and I were talking not so long ago about it. 3, maybe 4 years ago. He's grown now. He's a man in the legal sense. And he had pulled me aside one night and we were talking, just reflecting about, how the house has changed and how we are able to communicate. And he's like, Mom, I want to confide in you something that the Joker passed on while we were growing up. And this was years after were in the battle that we're in, probably about a year or two after he wasn't in the house. He said that, told him how to manipulate a situation for his better. All he needed to do was to continuously, push my buttons in an argument. You want to make her mad.
Oh my God.
And you don't want to let her walk away. You don't want her to end the conversation. You just want to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until she gets to the whatever, just stop, and when he told me that, I started thinking back, and almost every situation where I would come home and I would say, this is how I'm feeling. What you did to me affected me this way. And it would do an argument and how my feelings were null and void because I'm crazy, and how it was okay for him to speak to me the way he spoke to me, abuse me the way he's abusing me, because I came home and started the conversation.
Oh.
Yeah. And after the conversation with Thomas, I'm looking back on some of our fights or arguments with the Joker, and I'm realizing he was doing it. He was pushing my buttons every single time to get me madder and madder and madder, to the point where I'm just like, whatever, fine. Okay, you're right. I'm wrong. You're right. I'm sorry. For me to walk away. I think I cried with Thomas for an hour after that, realizing he manipulated me the whole time.
Yeah.
And I let him, didn't notice. It was a gradual start, and then it progressed and progressed. And just the manipulation about little things. I think in one of the other podcasts, we were talking about how I was so overly infatuated with, I thought it was awesome that every day I would leave work, text me when you're on the way home.
Yeah.
Let me know where you are. Let me know if you're going to make any stops. And I was, this is what a husband's supposed to do. This is it. Okay. Until the one conversation, I walk in, I didn't text him. I was on the phone with either my stepmom or my mom leaving work. When I got home, it was instant battle for him. Why didn't I?
Yeah.
Where was I? Who was I with? I must be cheating. There's no reason I shouldn't be texting him. How do I know that you didn't leave work early? And I'm just going, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like it was like out of left field, and I'm whoa. And so the whole thinking, oh, this is a love thing where he wants to know where I am, that's so concerning, turned into, no, this is, he needs to put his thumb down on me and know where I am for his control.
Yeah.
And years, it was years and years of it. And I hate to say that it made me feel like, looking back now, I feel stupid, but hearing other people going through the same thing, like if I was who I am now, I would slap the shit out of me. Girl, you should speak up for yourself. Your feelings are your feelings. And my mom taught me your feelings are your feelings, and nobody can tell me that your feelings are wrong. And if somebody does, there's something wrong with them.
Absolutely. There's something they're trying to get out of telling you that.
I lost myself in the whole manipulation of, he loves me, this is why he's doing it. I mean, there's other instances, but I don't know, that one, it draws me to it every time when I think of manipulation. I mean, that wasn't abusive, that wasn't physically abusive, it wasn't, but I think that was one of the times it hurt me the most.
Yeah.
Because it shifted my view of this person.
When that happened, so you're talking about when he started accusing you of doing something wrong because you didn't text. So when that happened, was that an aha moment at the time, or were you kind of going, hey, this is a sign that something's really off, or was it just
I wish I could say that I went light bulb. No, multiple times.
Yeah.
The point where the love that I felt, that he loved me enough to want me to text him every time I left, shifted. It shifted more to, okay, I think this is more of a control.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had some aha moment there.
I don't know how deep it went, because I then still continued to text him when I was leaving work. And, it took much longer when I became stronger and the kids were older, and, and my kids are telling me, we're stronger, Mom, you're a strong woman, stand up for yourself. You don't need this person to talk to you that way. He doesn't need to talk to us that way. The physical abuse, the way he would manipulate people, the outside world thinks this man is a shining star.
Yep.
And I bought into that. I bought into it. I fell in love with that shining star, and I lied for that shining star over and over to my family. Everything's fine. Everything's perfect. We're good. Yeah, we go as a family to Thomas's games, just those kind of things. Like, another time for manipulation was we got into an argument because I questioned why all of a sudden he was cashing his work check instead of depositing it, because it was his money, is what I was told. And I thought that was strange. And that was a big fight. And I said, okay, I'm sorry. But eventually it led into different situations of, like, the mortgage is not getting paid, or the car payment's not getting paid. Why is it not doing that? You're not working less. You're not, doing whatever. But it led into the drugs and the drinking, and disappearing, and into the situation we're in now. But
was that another moment? Like, if you look back at that now too, do you realize that there was a light bulb going off? Like, I guess what my point is when I look back, like in my time with him, I just went with it. Like you said, like I just went with what he said. Most of my time was spent trying to appease him, because I didn't want to get the wrath of the rage. And it was just easier, and just kind of waiting in that abuse cycle for the time where the love bombing comes back, or at least there's a lull, there's some peace. But
I think the peace is the main thing. You don't want to push the button
exactly
and then set off the nuke.
That's a good way to put it.
The nuke could last, and it's a very vindictive, hurtful, painful nuke.
Yeah, so destructive. A nuke is a really good way to put it. But I know for me, like when I think about it in any relationships, I've had 3 people in my life that have been pretty narcissistic. He's one of them, obviously. But I think in any of those situations, like I look back now and I kind of do what you just said, like, why didn't I see this sooner? And my clients always say this too. This is just a common theme that runs through. Why didn't I see it sooner? Why didn't I do something sooner? But you have to remind yourself you're not thinking right now with the same brain you were thinking with back then. Literally, like your neurons were different back then and firing in different ways. And we just have to learn to give ourselves forgiveness. And I think you said in one of the earlier podcasts that we did too, that I think your son said that you guys kind of grew up through in this all together, you know, and we're figuring it out all together. And that's just such a beautiful statement for him to say, you know, to understand that you never had a relationship like this before. You were trying to figure it out and trying to stay afloat and all of that.
I thought that was normal.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents were divorced. I have a great mom. I have a great dad. I have a wonderful stepmom. That we didn't witness abuse. I mean, you know, your parents get divorced and they're not friendliest to each other, but they never, you know, talk bad about one or the other. I never had any of that. So I, like, in the marriage thought, oh, this is the part where we're working. We're trying here.
Yeah.
Didn't understand that I would be the only one trying. My feelings wouldn't be put in consideration, in everything I did would be, every good thing that I thought I was doing would be skewed. Like if I decided to stay extra at work to, you know, make money to get our bills paid because we were hurting, young. There's somebody at work that you must like. I mean, at one time there was 2 techs at my job, so we have to take call, and literally I was taking 2.5 to 3 weeks of call, and I was literally getting called in every weekend, sometimes evening. And he actually said to me, "Are you having an affair with this doctor?" Gosh. I was like, I'm like, I'm at work. You literally know where I am. I mean, you've come there and seen me there. No, you're my, like, in my head, you're my world. How could you even think that? Like, talking to other people, and like, they're saying at that point, I should have been thinking he's reflecting. Deflecting.
Projecting.
Thank you. And it didn't ever click.
Well, of course not. You're worried about defending yourself and avoiding the nuke. Right. So you're not going to make all those connections. And honestly, when all of this was going on, people were not talking about narcissistic abuse very much until, I would say, that within the last 10 years. Think about that. Like, you've been separated him for what, 4 or 5 of those years?
Yeah, 21, I was able to get him off the property.
So, well, and then you also weren't really in relationship with him prior to that.
In 2019, he was asked to leave the property, and of course, he moved himself into the garage.
Yeah. But so that's even more. So that's 6 years, right? And if you think about 10 to 12 years or something like that, where people are really talking about it, how would you even know what projection is? Yeah. You know, you wouldn't know, you know, that there's all this kind of language that's now come out around narcissistic abuse where there's terms for these things, but we weren't talking about it under the umbrella of narcissistic abuse until recently. I'm a big believer, like, language gives meaning, right? When you have a term for something, you can understand it a little bit better, and it's not kind of stuck in the ether in your brain where you're just trying to figure it out. So without all of these terms that we have now, like the flying monkeys and the love bombing and the manipulation's been a term forever, but all of these terms that mean something in the world of narcissistic abuse, I think, are incredibly important. It validates the experience.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, but you wouldn't know. And it's like, it is literally it's a small cult. You know, we were talking about this in one of the groups recently, but it is literally like being with a cult leader. You know, there's a lot of brainwashing, a lot of pushing. No, this is what you like. This is what you like. Oh, okay, yes, this is what I like. You know,
he learns who you are. He learned, or they, not just him.
Yeah, they all do.
They learn how to hook you. They learn that, okay, this is the type of person she is. She likes a hard worker. She's a hard worker. She wants trustworthy. She wants responsible. She wants to be able to come home and communicate. I'm not a very outgoing person. I'm a homebody, you know, and then once they're there and they're in there, and then it slightly starts to change, and then I'm crazy, and then I need to go talk to somebody, and then I go and talk to somebody and find out I'm not crazy, that it's your feelings are your feelings. Yeah. And you can't tell somebody they shouldn't feel upset about this situation. You shouldn't feel hurt. Well, why shouldn't I? I am.
Yes, absolutely. You shouldn't, because it's inconvenient for him. Yeah. That's what it all boils down to. I was thinking when you were talking about the first thing that you brought up, but something brought up a memory for me too when you were talking earlier, so you guys were already together, and in some of the other episodes we've talked about the Joker, and I thought I had a friendship. And I remember talking to him on the phone one time, and he starts reminiscing about the time that we lived up in Ventura County, and when he got the Camaro, which is like his dream car. And there was also an opportunity to buy a Chevelle, which is my dream car. I love them. The old get out of town. Love it. Same brain.
Dated each other.
I know. It would have worked out so much better. He was talking about this Chevelle, like I put the kibosh on getting it because like it was my fault somehow, and I was like, oh yeah, I really should have got it. In hindsight now, if I had money, I mean, I would love to have that car. But at that time, my children were probably about maybe 5 and 3. We did not have any money. This conversation was much later, but he's trying to convince me about how much different our lives would have been. And it would have been so much cooler. And we would have had these great cars and we could have had a whole collection by now and blah, 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 all this stuff. And I'm like, this is delusional, right?
Unable to eat food or pay your rent or pay your bills. But hey, you got 2 awesome cars.
Yeah, it just was so delusional. But it was during that conversation, I don't know if I was a therapist yet when I was having this conversation with him, but it was that conversation for me that it was kind of like wait a minute, he's been doing this to me the whole time I've known him. He is the guy that's always got the big plans and zero follow through. Yeah. And that conversation was what really drove it home for me, because it was like, sure, we could have bought a car and then what? We couldn't afford to put gas in it. We couldn't afford to fix it up. We couldn't afford to do anything else. But it's just being on that ride, like, I don't know, again, like something during that time was like, don't buy this car. It's not feasible to buy this. And he had already gotten the Camaro. So I don't know. These moments kind of pop in my mind, especially when we've been talking about this so much, all these memories, and I'm like, oh, how did I not see that? But I'm doing that to myself. And I'm always telling my clients, don't do that to yourself, right? But you didn't know what to look for at the time. I didn't know what to look for. When I was in grad school and we were going through the personality disorders class and we were studying narcissism, I did have during that time, he and I were already apart during that time. But even back then in that class, I was like, oh my God, actually many light bulbs going off. I was like, oh, this is him. Yeah. So even being out of it for a long time, I still did not figure out what it was. And even then I wasn't convinced. I thought he had borderline personality disorder because there's a lot of drama with him. I really thought that was it for the longest time. And then when I started thinking about it more, and then of course I started doing the work and all that stuff, I realized it's full-blown covert narcissism.
The more that you and I talk, the more that I read, most definitely.
Yeah, he checks the boxes.
Very much so.
I'm grateful. I mean, I feel like, my kids were so young when we left the relationship. Your kids, unfortunately, got, I think, the brunt of who he is, but they also are walking on this path of healing with you, which I think is beautiful for all 3 of you.
Yeah, it's made us really close. I mean, we were close before, but I think we are so tight now because of everything in our feelings, and we're all trying to figure out how to process everything. Like some things we still can't talk about. It's a little too graphic. We don't talk about it. But like, my son's an awesome communicator. Wish I was good as he is. My daughter's like me. We keep a lot in, and it's hard for us to verbalize, I guess. But my son, very vocal. He's really good. He's the one that convinced me I was strong enough.
Yeah.
And to protect my kids and my family from this man.
Yes.
And he is such a good person. He can tell when his sister is upset, and they have, every love, hate, I love you, I hate you, whatever. But he's able to get stuff out of her that I can't. Really open with him. And I don't know if that still would have happened if we didn't, unfortunately, go through what we did go through, and we're not healing from what we're trying to heal from. So that's one thing I'm thankful for, is that it has brought us closer together and brought those 2 closer together. But then we have the other family. We have you and the kids. I have my niece. We thought that we had more family. We found out when this went on that side of the family, no, they have been witness to the abuse that has gone on in this house. The physical, the mental, the verbal, the financial. They've been here, all of them.
They witnessed it with me too. The same stuff they witness. It's a pattern, and they're all aware of it.
To this day, I am the white devil now because I've broken up that family. And I'm not sure how I broke up that family.
You didn't.
So
you're the scapegoat. Toxic families need a scapegoat. That way they can keep blaming somebody else instead of looking in the mirror.
Yeah, because then they don't have to correct anything. They don't have to admit that this person is evil.
Yeah.
That there has to be good points about him somewhere. I I want to say there's good in everybody. I want to say.
I'm
So
not going to say it.
I hope, I would hate for somebody else to go through this. I hope he listens to this with eyes wide open and not, we're two jealous women. We're bitter. You know, I'm not jealous of anything. I have never been happier to be away from a human being in my life. And it's hard. Don't get me wrong, because there's moments I go, you know, this actually would be easier if he was here. And then I'm like, did I just say? What's happening in my head? That's the recovery process. Like
it is.
But like we were talking, that this reaches people that it'll help, and that they know they're not crazy. Your feelings are your feelings. Don't doubt your gut.
Yes.
We need to listen to each other. Like in another podcast where you had called me early on, and I wish I would have had my eyes open, my ears open, and actually listened to it and not thought, this is his ex. This, she wants him back. You know, I wish I would have taken into account, because it would have solved a lot of problems. Not that I would ever take back what we have gone through. I have 2 beautiful children. I now have you, and I have my stepkids, and we're all learning how to be a family.
Right. Yeah.
And we don't need this person to be part of our family to be a family.
We are a family without this person. We weren't able to do this before. You're a better person than I am, because I have no thoughts that there's any good in there. The fact that you started this podcast out talking about him telling your son how to manipulate just tells me how much worse it got. His personality disorder got, because he got so much better at being an asshole, an absolute asshole. I don't even know what the right word is. I mean, he's just a diabolical.
He used his kids. I'm like, they're the people that you live and die for.
Right. You protect them above anything.
I don't understand that thinking, and I'm glad I don't understand it, because if I did, I think there'd be something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the way he put our children through is criminal.
Yeah. Literally criminal. He's done some really shitty things.
And the delusion that he's still under of I am a good father. I have never hurt my children. I have never done anything to any of my children or my niece. It blows my mind.
It blows my mind too, because this started when my children were little. He one time punched me. I was standing in this tiny little kitchen in our apartment, and Alyssa was standing behind me. He punched me. This wasn't the same time he punched me on the face. This was a different time, and it wasn't in the face. I can't remember where he hit me, but I remember kind of flying back into the wall. Alyssa was standing behind me, and she went flying back too. So he's hurt his children before. I was pregnant at the time he punched me in the face, holding one kid and one kid inside my body. Right.
Well, Thomas reminded me of a story he actually wrote in his letter to the courthouse. Yeah. As I said, I work at a hospital. So I was on call, and we were actually in the OR. So we cannot bring our phones in the OR or anything. And it was a very long procedure. So on this day and this is before the heavy drug use was going, he was drinking, and he had painkillers because of back surgeries. Not that I'm giving him an excuse, because I'm sorry, that's not an excuse. We all deal with it, and we all handle it. So it was dark outside by the time I got home. I'm guessing between, I can't remember exactly, 8 and 9 when I got home. And literally Thomas was walking up the street as I was coming home, and he was 12, maybe younger. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, nobody came to pick me up at school. He's like, I went to the rec center after school waiting for Dad to come pick me up. He never came. And he's like, I tried calling. I couldn't get a hold of you, Mom. I said, no, remember, I was in the OR. I scheduled for the OR that day. He's like, Mom, so I just decided to walk home. That school is out of our district. So I'm going to guess more than 10 miles. Yeah. The rec center closes at 5. And there you have to sign a written statement saying they're not in charge of your kids. They're not there. Your kids are there just to hang out. So when they close, they close. By the time I got home, Thomas met me in the driveway, instantly upset. My little baby, who I don't even let out in the front yard without me.
Yeah.
Walking 10 miles. We came inside, passed out on the couch, turned into a very physical, because, that was my baby. I'm like, what are you thinking? No big deal. I used to walk home all the time. I said, we're not in the 70s and 80s. No. He's got to walk past trolley stations. He's got to walk under bridges. I'm like, this is ridiculous. We live in where you can't even walk a block without somebody trying to accost you or sell drugs or rip you off to a 12-year-old. So he proceeded to berate me and got physical with me. And then I got in the shower, and then next thing I know, I hear yelling and screaming, and he is tackling Thomas, calling him not a traitor. I'm trying to think of the right word, a narc, basically, for him telling on him.
My God.
Remember, Thomas had a bruise on the side of his face, and he had to go to school. And my son is a very loud person. So for him to sit until that bruise went away quietly and had to think about why it's there, because you're looking in the mirror and you can see this. And his father did this to him. Father did it to him because he told his mom that his dad wasn't where he was supposed to be picking him up, being the responsible person that he was supposed to be. It was Thomas's fault, and it was and then it was also my fault because I couldn't get phone calls in the OR. Much as I'd said, listen, this is why you were supposed to pick him up today. I was on call. We already had this worked out. I said, you can pick him up right after school, or you can pick him up at the rec center by 5. I said, he loves going to the rec center. So if you want it, because literally across the street, rec center from the school, then that's fine. But you got to be there before 5. Didn't happen. Not answering his phone. I can't remember if the phone died or whatever. Didn't answer the house phone. Back then we had house phones. So, but he turned that situation around to where he came out and it was not his fault at all. He didn't see how leaving this child to walk more than 10 miles home was a problem. The thing he found a problem was that Thomas told his mom.
Yeah. And you held him accountable.
Yes.
And to blame a child for telling his other parent of something that scary, he must have been scared out of his mind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I have not heard that story. I mean, I knew he had been physical with your kids. I didn't know it was ever to that degree.
He took a lot of it out on Thomas.
Yeah. You said that before, but to leave a bruise like that on somebody's face that lasts for days and days.
A tiny little kid, a skinny, tiny little kid.
Yeah.
It's not a small guy.
Yeah, he must have been 2 or 3 times bigger than Thomas at that time. This is the kind of thing that's often passed down in families, you get the shit beat out of you and then you end up doing that to your kids because you don't take the time to make better choices. The only thing I know is him and his brothers being violent with each other. I don't know of stories of their dad being like this with them.
I think one time had told me that Miguel was abusive, just one instant. But in the 20 plus years I was in the family, in 10 years that Miguel lived with us, I had never seen a violent bone. Of course, he's a grandparent at that time and most passive person I've ever met.
Yeah, that was how I knew their history. After their mom died, he was working and there were housekeepers that would come in and take care of them sometimes.
Not so nice people. I'm not an outgoing person. I'm not an outgoing person.
I know this, yes.
And I don't like to share. It took a lot of my son and my daughter talking to me to have me do this. But if us having these conversations and having these memories and speaking our truths helps somebody else realize and stops them from going through what we have gone through, because we're not stupid women.
We are not stupid women.
We are not stupid women. We give full-heartedly with our hearts and we just want the same back.
Yeah.
Trust your gut.
Yes.
Your feelings are your feelings and don't let anybody tell you different.
Absolutely.
Your feelings are not wrong, ever.
Nope.
Ever.
Nope. That's a good place to stop.
We hope listening to our stories helps you know that you're not alone, you're not crazy, and you're not to blame. Please join us for our next episode where we'll share more about our healing journey and how we each got out and are staying out. We hope listening to our stories helps you know that you're not alone, you're not crazy, and you're not to blame. Please join us for our next episode where we'll share more about our healing journey and how we each got out and are staying out.